story about Will, who loved his English class, and one day while he was dreaming away about bumblebees and butterflies, he caught those words, homework. Oh no, what am I gonna do, he thought. And then the teacher kept talking about quotations and depth of thought, and Will seriously considered jumping out of the window. This was a tough question, and Will didn't know what to do. In fact, he lost all hope of ever getting that gold star he wanted so much. But just then, he remembered his phone and also that he hadn't eaten lunch. Will realized that he had something that could help him. An app. No, that's not right. An ape. He remembered he had an ape. No, that's not right either. Will remembered he had an APE-ARC that could help him get his gold star, and it can help you too. To help us understand APE-ARC, let's consider a poem by Robert Frost, Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire, and some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great, and would suffice. Now this poem is about Robert Frost's view of the possible destruction of the world, and he says that'll happen either because of the hatred of people or the lack of self-control or desire of those people. Now if your English teacher asks this question, what does Frost's symbolism suggest about the nature of desire? You could use APE-ARC to help. First, let's make sure that we understand this question. We're being asked about the symbolism of the nature of desire in the poem. That's our focus. Alright, let's apply APE-ARC to this question. To understand what APE-ARC means, let's look at each letter. First, A stands for answer the question in your own words. P, prove your point and use embedded quotations. And E, explain your quotation thoroughly. Moving on, now you have A again, which represents analyze how your quotations support your point. And then R is rinse and repeat. You don't always have to use this, but if you have more than one quotation, you'll want to do it. C then is about concluding and clarifying your point, and this will ensure that you too get a gold star. So now let's look at our APE-ARC strategy applied to our question. Remember the question was, what does Frost's symbolism suggest about the nature of desire? Let's see how APE-ARC can help us answer that question. So here's our poem again, and our question. Let's start with A. A is to answer in your own words. So for this, our answer might be something like, to Frost, desire is uncontrollable. Notice this is in our own words, clear and easy. So we answered our question, that was A, to Frost, desire is uncontrollable. Now we need to P, prove our point. So that might look something like this. We're talking a direct quotation. He relates what he's to, oh, hold the phone, what about embedding? Let's talk a little bit about using quotation, shall we? First, let's look at dropped quotations. These are quotations that aren't connected to the sentence. So our example is, to Frost, desire is uncontrollable. That's our answer. It's dropped whenever we just include our quotation, like in this example, and it's not connected to the sentence. Notice it stands alone, all by itself, and that makes Will sad. Now this next section is a little bit better, but it's not gold star worthy. Again, we start with our answer, and now we're going to include our quotation, and it's going to be in a sentence, but it's not going to be as sophisticated. Notice our speech tag, Frost said, comma, and then the quotation. This still isn't quite good enough to get Will the gold star he wants. So we've had two examples of what we shouldn't do. What should we do? I'm glad you asked. Again, we have our answer. Now let's put our quotation in our sentence so that it flows seamlessly. Notice in this example, I can put my thumbs over the quotation mark and never know where the quotes start. And that's sure to earn Will a gold star. So now let's go back and revisit that question. Remember, we're on P, prove your point, and this time we'll know how to include an embedded quotation. So it might look something like this. He relate what he's tasted of desire to those who favor fire. Notice how our two quotations are included in our sentence. Now it's time to E, explain your quotation. We've given our answer and our proof, and now we have to explain the quotations we used. It might look a little bit like this. We finish that sentence and then we continue, giving desire the qualities of fire like its wild, fierce power, tying back to our quote. Our next step is to analyze the quotation we used. And so for this, we're going to look back and see how the quotation proves our point and really talk about that. So our answer might look like this. Desire then, like fire, devours all that is in its path, ultimately resulting in destruction. So we're tying back to our point. Now, sometimes you need to use more than one quotation to prove your point, and if that's the case, you use R, which stands for rinse and repeat, but only as needed. If you do use more than one quotation, you'll want to make sure to go back and to explain and analyze every quotation that you use. In this case, we don't need to. This next one may be a little tricky for you. You're taught when you're younger that concluding is just restating. But in our case, C is to conclude and to clarify your point, much like a lawyer does in his closing argument. This might look like, moreover, Frost felt that he too had tasted the power of desire in his own life and perhaps felt the heat of its destruction. Let's look at the whole thing together. We have our answer, clearly stated in our words, our proof with embedded quotations. We have our explanation of what to look at in that proof. We have an analysis of how that proof ties back to our point. We didn't need to rinse and repeat. And then we have our concluding and clarifying point, which does more than just restate our original point. This is a happy ending for Will. When he turned in his homework using APE-ARC, his teacher was so excited she gave him a gold star. And with APE-ARC, you too can be a gold star English student and make your English teacher happy.